Welcome back. Ragnarok is unleashed. He took out Violet. Can they chain him down? They've sent out Ganji. AZUBU needs to stop this guy.
Yeah, they definitely have to. I tried to make a deal with Seed and told him that he should speak to Ragnarok and tell Ragnarok, okay, listen, buddy, you can only take down 2 of them, then you have to give me a chance, Seed that is. But yeah, he just laughed and was like, well, I don't know, I still think he's going to go for the auto kill.
Yeah, we'll see. This is going to be... you know, if he doesn't do it, LGIM is going to be like, well, I mean, we thought he was going to do it. It's one of those things where they're so confident, and they're telling everybody he's going to all-kill, and if he just falls short and Ganji stomps him down here, it's going to be a little bit embarrassing, maybe?
I don't think really. I mean, they joke a little bit about the all-kill, of course, and just trying to show their confidence. But I feel even if Ragnarok loses next match, with him already taking Violet out, that was a huge step, and one of the key players on the AZUBU roster, so I feel Ragnarok has already done a lot for his team here.
You could see Violet's reach out to the audience there very briefly. Just, yeah, you know, he was on camera, obviously, as this is the focus of the last match, and he just touched his head kind of in a way saying, I messed it up, yeah, I lost it, but...
Well, he lost the game, but now it's up to Ganji. We have a Terran player up against Ragnarok. The map this time is going to be a kill on flats. This is the second test for Ragnarok. And can he do it again? Will we have a multi-kill for this guy?
That's going to be what we're going to find out right now. Akalon Flats is the map. Will we see early aggression with Widow Mines, maybe some Hellbats? It's all up to Ganji, who so far has shown up mostly Wings of Liberty-esque style in this matchup.
We're jumping into the game right now. Zerg versus Terran. AZUBU is up versus LGIM at the GSTL Pre-Season Finals with Carl and Wolf. The second player for AZUBU starts to the top left. We have a Terran player in red. He is, of course,
AZUBU Ganji.
Ganji coming from.
Ganji, our Terran player here, the first one for his team. And he's up against a strong opponent. Starting to the bottom right, we have the Zerg player who took out Violet. This is
LGIM Ragnarok.
I'm going to try to talk again.
I think we have to get you something to drink.
I might have to call on someone.
Right now, the most important thing in this matchup is, of course, that we have with Ragnarok a player who has already a lot of experience against Terran. We saw him in the match against Axiom Acer. He took down Ryung. He took down Hard. In the end, he lost to a Terran, but his record against Terrans in general is really good in Heart of the Swarm. LGM says that he is the player who is definitely the strongest, has the most experience in Heart of the Swarm, and so far, this has been proven to be true. In this matchup in particular, we see him now going for a 15 hatch. He doesn't start with a spawning pool or anything, and he's up against the Terran player who does not try to go for an early gas and aggression. No, Ganji is going straight into a command center first.
I'm back. I feel much better now. I was getting, I had a piece of cookie or something in my throat. I don't know what it was, but I feel better now.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's good to have you back.
Well, I just hope I don't say anything redundant now, but...
Now, we just talked a little bit about the openings. We don't see any aggression for the Terran player here. On the other hand, we had Ragnarok going into a hatch first play, so both a little bit more economy-oriented.
Yeah, and you can see that Ragnarok has to take that gas early on because of all the openings he may face where he will need detection, potentially needing speed to deal with a Reaper opening, all of the different things that you might find in the early game as a Zerg player in this new expansion.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of builds that are centered around an earlier gas. On Queens alone, that's something that you can't rely on anymore because there is just openings with Reapers where they're a little bit too fast. The Queens can't keep up with that. So early gas gives you a lot more safety. You also want to get your tech going, and this is what we have seen Zerg players do. Also, the same is true for the Terran player. We have Ganji here for AZUBU with the Refinery starting his tech as well.
There's something I wanted to point out about the UI of Heart of the Swarm that was changed that I just noticed right now. One thing that a lot of people complain about and Blizzard changed in a patch a long time ago is that there used to be the menu buttons at the top of the screen, then you could make them unclickable so you wouldn't accidentally click on them, you could remove them entirely, but now they've just been removed from the UI and they're moved to the bottom right where you can see the question mark, the friends button, and menu. If you mouse over menu, it'll actually tell you exactly a bunch of information that you get at the top left of the screen if you press Control, Alt, and F. It'll also tell you the local time So you can see basically your frame rate, the local time, any stalls that you have in your client just by mousing over that. So if you want to know what time it is while you're in-game, you don't have to alt-tab anymore. Just want to tell you guys that because it's pretty cool.
Those menu bars were actually, for me, the most annoying thing, where there were major tournaments that would forget to hide them throughout, not only throughout one map, throughout like hours of game. And it would, as a commentator, this is the first thing that you notice. There's these subtle things that you always set up when you yourself have to do something, have to set up the stream. And if I saw this, I would always rage like crazy. So I'm quite happy that Blizzard already took care of it. Let's make sure that I can live a few years longer.
Yeah, so just wanted to point that little change out in the UI. There's a lot of different UI changes, like the gas being represented by the races now. Legend, I told you how to check what time it is. You don't have to do that anymore.
You don't have to alt-tab. Wolf just pointed it out.
That was really funny that just happened. But this is now going into a normal Terran versus Zerg that we're seeing here. Even Wings of Liberty-esque with the Hellions coming out here.
And also we have the third command center already being built here for Ganji. So he's really going for a very, very macro-oriented game. And we have his opponent, Ragnarok, now with the Roach Warren. And you kind of have to go Roach Warren against Terran. You have to have Roaches out there. There's always the threat of Hellbats, of Reapers. So many units that a Terran player can use where you simply need a few Roaches in your composition. This is why we very rarely see a Zerg player not building a Roach Warren in this matchup again.
Yeah, it's just necessary to have. Nice scout here by Ganji. He will be shut down, but it was a good attempt. If he had gotten in there and seen the Roach Warren, that would have been really valuable information for him to know. Widow Mines are coming out for him now. And the Widow Mines are probably, since he went for such an early command center, just going to be used as a defensive measure against a possible Roach aggression, especially one with Burrow, as we have seen in the past from players like Lucky in this preseason.
I really like the move with the Burrow upgrade. We don't see it yet for Ragnarok, but still with 7 Roaches, he can not only defend against Hellion pressure, he can also try to poke a little bit and just have a quick look at what exactly is going on at the top left. But he has to be very careful. The threat of Widow Mines is very real, and we have now the AZUBU player also going into all these upgrades. With the double engineering bay, he has his +1/+1 started. We have him going into Stim. He's going to play Bio here, not going into a mech composition against the strong Zerg for Team LGIM.
Yeah, just going into what you would expect to see normally. He's slightly ahead with his upgrades, but you see that Ragnarok is also getting his Evolution Chambers they just finished. The Hellions are scared away immediately, so this is going to give him free reign with his creep spread, something that the Reapers would normally annoy if he had made some. And he wants to bait these Roaches into the Widow Mine. He's successful. One Roach gets taken out.
One Roach already down. And we also, talking about the upgrades, have a +1/+1 attack upgrade pattern for Ragnarok. He's going into the range upgrade for his Roaches and potential Hydralisk right away. Second Roach is now down. And this already gives Ragnarok the information that there's not only one Widow Mine, but that there are actually 2. Yeah. So he gets a few information here out of this, but he had to sacrifice 2 Roaches for the information.
When you're playing against a Terran player, this is a tip for Zergs as well. I wanted to put it out there. When you're playing against a Terran player in this matchup, when there's one Widow Mine, there's always 2, because usually people react to them out. So if you see one Widow Mine, you should expect at least a second one. If you see a third one, then there's also probably a fourth one. If you see a fifth one, you're probably playing against somebody who's not very good, but, you know.
Letic is now coming up for Ragnarok, and what we see for Ganji is just a continuous upgrade pattern for his Bioforces. The Armory is now being built, and this gives him the chance to go into +2/+2 right away as soon as the first set of upgrade finishes. And we have him now with a very safe 2-base play, but he has the third command center already, so he can go into the triple SCV production. We have him with the additional Mule. There's a lot of options for him going into a third base and then trying to put pressure onto Ragnarok later on in the game.
It looks like he wants to try to break out from this soft Roach pressure that's at the front of his base, but he just can't quite comfortably do that yet. The Roaches at the front give him a nice amount of flexibility because now he can make, like he just did, 11 drones at a time back at home because he knows any move out from the Terran player is not going to be an easy one.
Very important here to note is that now with the Hydralisk Den that we see for Ragnarok, it's kind of difficult for AZUBU's Ganji to actually make this composition work. The problem for him is that he does not have any siege tanks whatsoever. And against the composition with Hydras, you really want to have a few tanks in your army because they do so much, not only against the Roaches, but mainly against the Hydralisks. So this could be very, very dangerous for the Terran.
You have to wipe the Hydras out with some sort of AoE because if you don't do it, then they are going to take out your bios so fast because units like Marines especially just do not have a lot of hit points and Hydra's DPS is really, really high.
And we have now the speed upgrade first before we see the range upgrade for the Hydralisk. This will give him a few more seconds where he can be aggressive. And the first fight is already happening with the +1 attack upgrades. We now have the Terran player hitting the stim button and trying to take down as many roaches as possible before the Hydralisks are even there to lend their damage to the attack.
Exactly. Ganji is really shutting this down hard. And it begs the question, were the roaches too far forward? That Widowmine gets sniped. Nicely done. It forces another stim, but he will scan and not only kill some of these roaches, but kill the tumors as well.
A big problem for Ragnarok was that his speed was not done. It's now done, but he already lost a lot of his army. So he has to be very careful here. And he's actually deciding to fight against a much bigger force.
I think this is a mistake. You know, a lot of these Marines are on low hit points, but with the medevacs at the back and with the stim power here, this is just not going to be a good trade. And Ganji is going to clean house here. Now that the Lings are out, he can pick up and get away. Every single slot in the medevacs is taken. He boosts away. The crowd is pretty happy with this, and Ganji looks like he may not be done yet.
Exactly. He is going now for the draw play. He's using the Wind Diesel thrusters here to get fast to the natural and into the main base. A lot of bases that Ragnarok has to defend here. And fighting was really a bit of a weird choice. I thought that he would try to buy himself a bit more time until the Hydralisks are finally not only in the game, but also have the upgrade for the speed so that he can move a little bit faster.
Exactly. He has 4 bases, so if he just waited a little bit longer, the production that he's got from that would have kicked in, would have been able to make a Roach Force with Hydras big enough to push that back. Now this is finally cleaned up. He does not control these drops, but he's controlling this instead. Widowmine's lending a hand here as well. He wants to get this hatchery down. That's a lot of Hydras. You know, at this point, I would say fight until the Lings get there. The Lings are here now. He turns and fights.
He's trying to push this back, and the first drop is already cleaned out. One of the things that Ganji did not really control perfectly. He could have saved a lot of those units, and especially the medevacs. Now he's relying on 2. They have, of course, a lot of healing potential, but it could be a lot more.
Yeah, he could have even boosted and rocketed out with most of his army there if he had wanted to with the other 2 medevacs there, but instead he had to boost away and save what he could.
You know, it's a little bit weird that these 2 Widowmines are still alive, that Ragnarok apparently missed that they were burrowed. Now he finally sees that they're there.
And he will lose the Roach for it, but you're right. Should easily be able to clear this up now with an Overseer. Overseer's already on the way down. But at this moment in time, both players are relatively even in supply. And you know what's different about this matchup now is when you're even in supply, it doesn't mean that that's bad for the Zerg necessarily, because they have these new Hydra units that just do a ton of DPS. They're great to have in your army.
The upgrades are dead even at this point with +2/+2, but we have Ganji with the earlier +3 attack upgrade. Here now comes this composition that is so tough to beat for Terran, but, well, Ganji has a lot of DPS here with the stim, and the Roaches are not where they should be. They're not shielding the Hydralisks properly.
Yeah, I'm loving the Widowmines used for zoning here. With those Widowmines alone, he scared the Zerg player back. He's going to burrow them here once more. They were already used, though. The Hydras just do so much DPS, he pushes the Terran player back once again, and Ganji is now down massively in supply here. And the production the production on 4 bases, the Zerg was never really hurt in his economy.
Yeah. You know, this was not even the best engagement that Ragnarok could have gotten. Those Roaches at the back are just dancing around the Hydralisks, trying to get into a good position. And now this is just way too much. He's trying to lure him into the Widowmines, but the Overseers, they give the vision and he can take them out before they do too much damage.
Yeah, the Lings tanking a little bit of damage at the front, the Hydras at the back just doing oh so much here. And, you know, he just does barely not have enough forces to push these back. The medevacs did what they could, but the Hydras now on the chase. And Marauders, not usually what you want against Hydralisks.
And the Overseer is so important here. The Overseer just makes sure that Ragnarok is not running into a minefield, that he always sees what exactly is going on. And look at the reinforcements now. It's streaming in. More Hydralisks, more Roaches. He's in a great spot.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't see any siege tanks, he's going to keep making these Hydras. Fighting a planetary is going to be a bit tough, but he has the DPS to do it. The rocks were not cleared for Ganji, and he knows it. He can see them, and he will be able to clear up this planetary. He will have to target a few of those SCVs, I feel, though.
Let's not forget that we also are on Hive Take for Ragnarok, so he could go into Vipers. And the planetary is just dying. As we see Ragnarok now adding exactly what I just pointed out, the Vipers. And with those, even if they are tanks, it's not going to be an issue. I feel he's mostly going to use them to take out the medevacs here.
Yeah, now Ganji's in a desperate situation. He has to remake his 4th base. He does not have siege tanks. He's got just medevacs, and more medevacs coming out with his Bioforce. These Widowmines are a nice attempt to try to catch some of the army, but it's not going to work. Marauder drop here will be shut down by the Lings.
And now with the Vipers in the game, he can use Abduct against the medevacs. He can also use the Blinding Cloud, which is really important.
These SCVs are getting taken out here.
With the SCVs and the mules.
Kill the rocks. So the SCVs are just naturally going in that direction. He needs to kill those rocks so he can go to his 4th.
At the same time, the Ultralisk Cavern is now being produced, and we've seen already in the matches that Ragnarok played against Hart and Ryung how strong Ultralisks really are in this matchup. A Terran player is really struggling against Ultralisk if he doesn't have a proper air composition, and this is something that Ganji just can't afford right now.
And look at the Blinding Cloud affecting all of these units. The Hydra's getting in so many hits before those units get out of the cloud. Widowmines go off here a little bit, and he does not have as much support for his Hydras this time, so he will have to run away. And Ganji continues the chase here with his Bioforce. This time it's looking much stronger. He's also got that Marauder drop over at the third base.
The Marauder drop is doing a lot here, and the Widowmine usage of Ganji is really something that we have to point out here. They are doing a lot of damage, but the Hydralisks are always trying to move in. Ganji is closing the gap in supply though, and he's adding on the pressure now.
Yeah, he really is hitting this pressure. He's got those good upgrades. He's coming through here, hitting the Hydras, and the Widowmine's going off at the back here. Now all the Hydras are gone, and Roaches just do not quite have the DPS they need to cut through these Medivacs. The Medivac's low on energy, but it looks like they did their job long enough to where now he can actually knock this hatchery down and get out.
These Widowmine hits, they were just amazing. He took out all the Hydralisks. They don't have the the hit points to withstand this much aggression. And this was exactly what Ganji was hoping for. Burying the Widowmines, moving in, and then he always has this safety net at the back, and he knows if those Widowmines take out the Hydralisks, suddenly he can do so much more with his Bioforce. And now it's Ragnarok who is under so much pressure. This is just such a back and forth game.
Notice every time he burrows those Widowmines, it just offers him so much zoning. The Zerg player has to think long and hard about how he wants to move into the engagement. Blinding Cloud goes down again.
Wolfie just lost his Hydra then.
Yeah, he lost his Hydra. It was in a weird place. The Overlord's here leading the charge, trying to tank some damage on the Marines a little bit. He's got a good concave here at the top of the ramp. It's going to be tough for Ganji to break through, but he's pushing his Widowmines here. This is the first time we've seen players really use Widowmines like this with their main army through the mid and late game.
And what this means is that Ragnarok, he can't really move out. He knows that there are Widowmines. He's seen them with the Overseers, but he can't do anything about it.
He's dropping in supply like crazy here.
He's trying to hold the high ground, but it's just so difficult against all those Medivacs.
He's dancing the Marauders and the Marines. And Ganji, he's not out of this yet, but he's got such a favorable position. Now moves the Widowmines up the ramp. He's dropping a torrent of mules at the top.
He is dropping the Mule Hammer for sure. He doesn't even use them to repair the Medivacs, what he could do, but he knows that this game is ending in his favor.
The Vipers,
Ragnarok losing even more here.
Yeah, the Vipers are doing well. GG.
GG. Ragnarok is desperately trying to get more energy for the Vipers to use Blinding Cloud again, but it's just too late.
I was just going to say that the Vipers are doing so much damage to the hatchery, it might lose it before Ganji even gets there, but Ganji has already stopped the terror. He has stopped the all-kill, and he made it look like Ragnarok was all talk with that mid-game. You know, he had a few awkward, shaky engagements where he just did not quite have enough units to fight in the middle of the map. But he just kept up the aggression. He never stopped with his drop, his Marauder drops in the main base and the natural, really keeping Ragnarok occupied, and then he went through to finish things off.
It was just such a back and forth game, and Ragnarok, he was the one pulling the trigger several times, but he just missed. It didn't hit any of the vital spots of his opponent, and he could never take down the base to the left side. So Ganji is in high spirits here. You can see him just making fun in front of the camera, even dancing the Marauders in the match. But this was a very close game, and several times Ragnarok looked like he would be able to take it.
Yeah. He never switched out of Hydras because that's how the match was being played right now. Obviously he went into Vipers, but he didn't...
Well, he tried, but he could not really pull it off. There was too much aggression. His biggest problem was just like he could never reach the Ultralisks. He went for the Ultralisk cavern, but then when it really counted, he lost the Hydralisk against the Widowmines, and this is exactly what won Ganji the game, that he took out so many of the Hydras. Yeah. The entire clumped up position.
I loved how Ganji used the Widowmines in the fights because it offers so much zoning because, you know, when you're in a fight, the Hydras are not going to prioritize the Widowmines that are moving forward. If you do, then you're wasting DPS, you're not hitting the Marauders, and then if the Widowmines burrow, because you're not sure, you can't target all your Hydras against all the Widowmines appropriately without overkilling, and if those Widowmines burrow, then you're going to lose all your Hydras, so he had to run away several times, which gives Ganji the time to heal up his units with the Medivacs.
It reminded me a little bit of how we saw in Wings of Liberty nukes being used.
Yeah.
You go into a position and you know that the army, or at least half of the arm of your opponent, is behind you, and you put one nuke there, so you're like, okay, well, you can attack into this, but if you do, you will likely lose your army, and this is exactly what we saw happening. Ragnarok saw there are Widowmines, but he had to do something. He had to try to engage with his units, and he was just hoping for a cooldown on the Widowmines. That wasn't the case, so suddenly all the Hydras are gone. He is down half his army, and he's like, well, what I'm going to do right now? Yeah. Trying to hold the high ground, but even with the Blinding Cloud, that didn't work.
It was just a matter of, like you said, something like that's like nukes. We saw this before in the past in Wings of Liberty. Now we're seeing it in Heart of the Swarm. Do you go or do you stay? You go. It gives me more pressure, gives me more time to heal my units. I can move forward here. I get the better position. If you stay, the Widowmines go off the right way, then you're going to lose anyways.
Who do you think we're going to see now for LGIM? I actually think that it's time for Seed. Not because there are no other players that could take this role, but I feel he has deserved the chance. I feel we will see a player that we haven't seen yet.
I thought we were going to see Ruin first, and it turns out
it's going to be first.
And this is the last player I expected to see today, in fact.
Well, it's a first for first, so
yes.
we see another player. We see a player that has not played in this Heart of the Swarm pre-season tournament here at the GSTL just yet. Yeah, I can certainly respect this decision. I would have loved to see Seed for the reasons mentioned, but first is also a good choice. The coach just really wants to switch players around, wants to make sure that everyone gets a shot.
Yeah. See what First has up his sleeve here. Heart of the Swarm experience listed as 50. And based on the other listings of the LGIM coach, I think I figured him out. I think it's basically the closer you are to 100, the more experience you have. And 50 here seems to be somewhere in the middle. As you put Ragnarok at 100. So that doesn't really matter too much, because that's just the coach's distinction. And this was given to GOM a long time ago anyways. But we'll see what First has to bring to the table here. I think his Steel Series headset in the booth now. I'm excited to see this new Protoss style, because all the other Protoss we have seen from LGIM, like you said, they are so Protoss heavy now with a great lineup of players. And First is not one of the players we really talk too much about, but he's already given great results in the past too. So what could he even show us? Is the Protoss lineup even stronger than we thought or even anticipated going into this?
It's definitely going to be a very interesting game now. He's one of the players that I personally not really expect to come out, just because I'm always anticipating, I sound like a broken record right now, but I'm really anticipating Seed all the time just because he has shown so many great games already in Heart of the Swarm. He has been dominant on the ladder too, so it's a little bit weird to me that we don't see him at all, but the coach really wants to give all these players a chance. And First is also someone who did decent in the IPL Korean qualifier. He went into the third round, actually. Took down at least 2 opponents with a 2-1 before he lost, I think, to Tails then. So that was definitely him showing, okay, I can definitely compete with those guys. I think he actually won the match against MMA with a 2-0. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly he can bring to the table against another Terran player.
Yeah, another Terran here.
If you can defeat MMA with a 2-0, can you take down Gunzi?
Well, if he has any of the stuff that we've seen from Ruin already in this preseason, I think that he'll have a good shot at it. And if he doesn't, we may see another Protoss player come out. It's all up to Hirai, but the map choice is one that I really want to know about, but I can't see it. It's actually hidden from me.
You know, I actually just confirmed again that he was not only able to win against MMA with the 2-0, but he also won against Sound. So 2 Terran players that didn't stand a chance against him. He is 4-0 against Terran in tournaments in Heart of the Swarm, therefore. And this is definitely a good choice. I feel that C probably just told him, okay, well, listen, I don't have to come out right now against Terran. First is actually better. The players talk a lot to the coach, and they talk about who's the better choice. We've seen this from all the teams so far here at the GSTL Pre-Season. And yeah, First, definitely a good choice here if you consider how much he played against Terran so far.
Yeah, so we don't know what the map is, so it could really be anything. We're going to find out pretty soon. And we will have a question that he'll have to answer for us. And I wish I could ask him right now, but of course that would ruin everything. But the question is he going to go for some sort of timing attack? Because Protoss has a lot of different options and new abilities to do that with. Even could go for some sort of aggressive opening with Oracles. Or is he just going to play defensively, use that Mothership core, and then go into late game with Storms? Kind of like what we saw from Ruin.
Yeah, Ruin played this really well. We've seen also a lot of Proxy Stargate play, but it's a little bit out of fashion now again. This was one of the things that was played on ladder the entire time so far in the preseason tournament. We haven't seen it too often. It still comes into play occasionally, but these very aggressive pushes that are very all-inish, where you try to proxy your tech, are not that common here anymore. Most players really try to go into the late game and show us a bit of a longer match, which is quite interesting to watch. We had just a very exciting game between Ganji and Ragnarok that was just back and forth with one comeback after another. I would love to see something like this in game number 3 now.
Once you play against that proxy Oracle strategy 50 times on the ladder, you're usually pretty good at defending it. And
exactly.
The thing is, those types of strategies kind of fell apart once Terran players figured out that against Protoss, oftentimes you want to just do an aggressive build with gas rather than trying to just defend a one-rack command, especially with the new Blink Stalker all-ins that are out there with no observers. I feel this is the reason why we had the nerf to the build time for Blink. I was like, They call it a buff or a nerf because it's just longer.
Yeah.
It's like bigger. It's a bigger number, but it's not good. It's a nerf to the build time because now you don't need observers if you have the mothership core. You have high ground vision, and then the mothership core has some abilities of its own like recall and the time warp.
Exactly. Time Warp came into play several times already here in the tournament and was really well used. One of the questions that has been answered, though, is if Ragnarok is going to be able to take the all-kill. He has his 4th win under the belt now. He was at least able to take down Violet, but it was just not enough for a multi-kill. And I'm actually quite happy to see that we have this back and forth scenario now. I would love if this would continue up to a 7th game in this series. This is still a best of 7, guys. So if you just tuned in for the first time here at the preseason, we changed the format a little bit. This is not a best of 9 anymore.
By the way, we do have still 8 Code S spots to give away in the Code A coming up. As you can see, 2 more days of Code A coming up not only tomorrow, but the following day, Tuesday and Wednesday at 6:10 p.m. Korean Standard Time. Make sure you tune in to see who's going to the up and downs and who is going to be starting right away with Code S.
Exactly. Tomorrow we have a lot of good players. We have SOS versus Flying. We have Beyond versus Gumiho. Lure has to deal with DRG. And we have Alive versus Live, which is going to be pretty cool. 4 of those players will advance to Code S, and then of course on Wednesday we have True versus Boong Boong, we have Su versus Lucira. We will see Shine, the Samsung Shine that is, against Squirtle, who just joined LGIM today. And we will see Flash versus Rain. Yeah. So a lot of exciting games here. It's not only about the GSTL and the Heart of the Swarm, but we also have a couple of Wings of Liberty matches left. Code S, and then the up and downs for the next season.
You'll see if Code S proves that Tasia can be the last Terran in the Wings of Liberty expansion, the Terran expansion of StarCraft 2. Can he make it to the finals?
Yeah.
Or are we going to have one of our 3 Zergs going head-to-head with another Zerg in the finals? That's what it starts to, a lot of people are speculating it might seem that way, but Tasia, despite his injuries and despite his, having to go through recovery, is still doing really well. He's the last Terran standing.
That series was so awesome that he played. It was really exciting. For us it's going to be a little bit weird to switch now from Heart of the Swarm back to Wings of Liberty, then back to Heart of the Swarm, and once again
there's
back
a lot
to
of bouncing around.
Original. Yeah, but it's a little bit challenging. It's also fun. But
I really agree. I find it to be quite fun as well.
But now we're focusing on to game number 3 here at the GSTL Pre-Season Finals. We have Whirlwind as the map. Ganji is up against the first Protoss versus Terran. It's awesome. We see another matchup, so we're going through all the matchups now. Map is currently loading. First is ready with his setup. Ganji, of course, with 1 win against Ragnarok. Now he has to prove himself against a Terran player. Sorry, against a Protoss opponent.
Yes. Can first prove himself in Heart of the Storm. He's already played in some qualifiers. This is his opening match for GSTL. He's got a tough opponent in Ganji. Let's load up the map. It is Whirlwind. Here at the preseason finals with Calder and Wolf.